What's going on, guys? So as you can tell, my mod did not exactly solve our issue, and I fixed about 15 wires out of these, 4 wires per plug, and realistically I could probably go through each one and resolder them and it would probably work okay, but I got tired of doing it, and realistically a lot of the coil pack, like the weather pack locks, like they have a little lock that slides in, a lot of them have broken off. I didn't really realize how they worked when I first got them, so I pushing pins that probably didn't properly fit in there and whatnot. But anyways, I have ordered parts to hardwire them, so we're ditching the adapters. I'm just gonna hardwire them. It's not too hard, but I'm waiting on parts, and I've had this sitting in the mids for a while and I know that I spent probably 20 hours on this airbox, but we are ditching the airbox today. So this is a aftermarket intake made by Spectre. It is an enclosed airbox, and I actually have a different filter for it, but it doesn't fit, just to kind of fill it out. And it's also got a velocity stack on the front, which I like. Realistically, this filter will flow more than enough. They say 600 CFM, so more than we'll ever need. But the point is that just getting in and out of this thing, like getting in and out to mess with these wires, I always have to take the intake out. And with this stock elbow that with this aluminum elbow that I have, it never really fit that well. Like it would always kind of be pushed out. I could never get the bolt in. I could, but it would just be like you can tell, like if I force it, you can get it close, but it is just way too tight. And I have a heat shield for this thing and everything, so I'm gonna take all this stuff out and we're gonna mock it up. And ideally I wanted to measure the mass airflow grams per second with a stock airbox and go to an intake like this, and also measure our intake temps, but I'm lazy. I'm not going to do that until the coil packs are all fixed, because it's not exactly the most accurate data if it's randomly pulling timing. So today was just going to be about the sound. We're going to just see what this sounds like. I'll just use my butt dyno and just kind of feel it, but yeah, I just wanted to mock it up and see what it looks like and hear what it sounds like, because I think most people who do these are really after that induction sound. And while the stock airbox is definitely quieter than my gutted one, it's nowhere near as drony and loud as this thing will be. So swap it in there and see what it's like. Okay, so it's all in there. Actually fits pretty well. This is a heat shield that I made when I was originally going to do like an open filter design that's sealed to this, but it just proved to be kind of too difficult, and it would slowly seep in some heat. So I know that this is way overkill, but it should sound cool. And yeah, I don't think it's gonna have too much engine bay heat. That seals off pretty well. I kind of relocated my ground strap and I pulled this main wiring harness, so it actually does kind of sit in between those two. There is a little groove down there. Let's see, it doesn't seal perfectly, but that's kind of what the airbox is for, because this is enclosed. It really is only going to pull out through here. And we've got our little ram air funneling air, so that might be good enough. I might even cancel. I've got a it's really expensive. It's like 40 bucks for a it's like 2 feet of air ducting, and normally, you know, I would just go to Home Depot and buy like straight up home HVAC stuff, which, you know, that I'm not a stranger to that. But I figured it had the proper clamp that goes onto here, and you can attach speed rings and stuff onto it. I think I might just leave it as this. This is actually pretty solid. I might turn this up, this piece, I might turn this up a little bit. In fact, I'm gonna do that right now, and just so that it sticks out, because the math has to kind of plug in there and I don't want it rubbing up against the catch can. But other than that, I think we might have something on our hands, boys. Anyways, I'm gonna take this thing for a test drive. So just rotated that like 40 degrees, so now it doesn't have nearly as much space in between the two, because yeah, that catch can gets kind of hot since it's mounted right to the block. But yeah, I'm gonna go get the GoPro and let's go see what this thing sounds like. Okay, so I just had to go home real quick and get the laptop because the new airbox seems to be flowing a lot less than the stock airbox. So on the ethanol, this is gonna be kind of hard to measure because the I had ethanol in there and I just had to get gas, which is ethanol free, and that's gonna bring down my air fuel as well, but it shouldn't be that much. And the pull that I did before was in the mid 11. All right guys, so I don't know how much of the previous clips I'm going to include because I was absolutely dead wrong about just about everything, but let me explain. I can't explain why I thought this, but let me explain what I thought. So for some reason I was confusing open loop with speed density mode. So open loop and closed loop is like this. So on a car like this, it uses closed loop for partial throttle and idle. So what that means, the loop, is air goes into the intake, it has a combustion event. As it goes out the exhaust, it goes past the oxygen sensor, and that tells the ECU whether it's lean or rich, and it adds or subtracts fuel, and it just kind of goes back and forth, you know, rich, lean, it just kind of hovers around there. Open loop only uses our mass airflow sensor. It stops listening to the oxygen sensors, and it uses a volumetric efficiency table. So it has its own fueling kind of predetermined, and it uses this air to see how much air. You know, if it's cold, it's gonna give you a little bit more fuel. If it's warm, it'll use a little bit less, and so on and so forth. Now, there are standalones, like I know Haltech and Holly have this, where it uses closed loop for wide open throttle. So you floor it, and instead of a narrow band, it has a wide band, and that will tell the ECU what your air fuel is at wide open throttle. We do not have that. This is a old Nissan ECU. So when I floor it, the only sensor that it's using to tell it how much air is going in the engine is actually this sensor. It actually might use the map sensor as well, but regardless, either of these sensors is going to measure more air going in the engine. So when I'm sitting in my car and I see the wideband go rich, I don't know why I thought this, but that means that the engine is seeing more air, and the ECU sees that and adds more fuel. So this is actually a very, very efficient intake. This intake's colder air temps and way more air than the stock airbox. So I was actually dead wrong. We will not be returning this. This will be the new intake on this car. The only thing I have to figure out now is how to reduce the amount of fuel that it's adding, right? We are adding way more air. Now I need to subtract some of that fuel. We're adding way more air, is adding way more fuel, and I need to subtract some of that. Now, whether that is because I don't have a MAF screen or not, whether it's just seeing more air go past certain parts of it, I'm not sure. But the wideband doesn't care about that. It sees it past the collector. So we're gonna go from the wideband and tune for that. So I think tonight I might dump the rest of my ethanol in here and just kind of see what it's like at wide open.
The next day.
What's going on, guys? So it is the following day, and I was reviewing some of the footage I got on the GoPro yesterday, and I'm not going to use any of it because it's unbearable to me to hear minutes on end of me like pondering why it's running more rich. It just didn't make any sense. So I'm just going to explain kind of why I thought what I did, and then we're gonna go basically for another test drive. I got the GoPro charged up, and we got some ethanol because it was very low on fuel. So it's most likely close to 0% ethanol right now, maybe like 1 or 2%. And in the video that you're not gonna see, I mentioned that it's running quite rich. So I go into wide open throttle, and so here's my rationale. So I'm used to thinking that a rich air fuel mixture on the wideband means either low on timing or not as much air. I don't know why I thought that, but realistically, open loop is still measuring air coming in. So if it's running rich, it's either that there's way more air and that it's dumping a bunch more fuel, and that you would think that if it's adding more fuel, if there's more air, it would be a similar air fuel. So maybe it's turbulence because we're not running a MAF screen anymore. Either way, I'm thinking that this has less resistance in it just because of the design. The air temps were lower, so we are going to go back to this. I put it all back together. I got the the regular filter in there. There was no difference between the two filters because it's more than enough. I'm not even going to show you the video, but I'm talking about filter size and shape and all this stuff, and it's irrelevant. I was wrong. That's the point. So today we're going to go do some test drives and test hits, more importantly. And we're going to see where the air fuel is. I am going to disconnect the battery, because I know on some of the later gen American cars, open loop will use a VE table, so volumetric efficiency table, and then it uses the mass airflow to reference that. So it doesn't reference the O2 sensors, that's the open loop part, but it does reference a table, and it uses, some of them will use its long-term fuel trim. So if the car's been adding a ton of fuel and you go wide open, it uses that VE table plus your long-term fuel trim. I went through the factory service manual briefly. I couldn't really find anything on that, so that's still speculation at this point. But unplugging the battery and letting it reset should tell us that. So another thing I wanted to test was, maybe I was distracted, but we drove for about 35 minutes yesterday and I didn't encounter one timing pole. So I don't know if having this front air intake, the front air split, I guess they call it the front air intake, it's assembly, but it's the front part of the intake, and it does block off the rad. So I'm wondering if we're getting a bit better airflow through there now. I'm not sure, but it does seem a little bit cooler under the engine bay, and the intake temps were lower than the airbox, which I found very surprising. But today we are going to go for a test drive. Nothing really too crazy. I just want to kind of feel how it responds, because even though it was rich yesterday, it felt really strong. And I'm wondering, I know that on some, like on a Camaro or like a Corvette Z06, like the 7-liter motors will often have a somewhat starved cylinder. So if all of them are running at, say, 12:1 air fuel ratio, but the cylinder at the back, one of the cylinders in the back is running at 12.8, and you lean it out, what you think, because you're only measuring after the collector, well then you might be leaning out that one cylinder, right? And in those cases, those cars will often run better rich. That's how they're described, right? The guy says, you know, oh, my car runs better at 11:1 air fuel ratio. It's not because physics has changed for his car. It's just that having that one cylinder with proper enrichment makes more power than leaning out the other 7. So I think I'll play with that. I'm obviously just going by the butt dyno here, but I'm not going to lean this thing out too much with ethanol. But I think if I can get the air fuel back to around 12:1, that would be that would be great. So we'll see how that feels. I got the tank of ethanol with me in case it's too rich, but yeah, let's see what this thing does. Okay, just had to swap out my battery because it wasn't charged. So anyways, we just reset the battery, so that should reset everything, including our fuel trims. Which, if that's how it works, then now we'll know. We got about 20 liters of ethanol in the trunk, so if we need it, we can always lean it out. But I did kind of want to see where this thing was at without it, so we'll start there. I gotta do a couple things. I'm obviously not gonna film the whole time, but we'll film for the interesting parts, and I'll go on a little bit of a rant. I've also got the coil packs. I got all my parts came in today, so I'll go to, for any Vancouverites here, Lee's Electronics on Fraser. They have some really high quality stuff. They have cheap stuff too, when it's okay to get cheap stuff, but I like those guys. They're really helpful. So we'll go over there, pick up some wire. But first we're gonna head out to Richmond. Get the guinea pig some food. We're gonna test this intakes. Oh, e-brake's still on. Not paying attention. Because yeah, yesterday it didn't feel like it was down on power at all. It felt actually really strong at around 10.9:1 air fuel. So it's really rich, and it has all the symptoms of being rich. It's not like the wideband is going out. Because I put the other airbox back in. I did that 3 times last night. Back and forth. Because for some reason, I just could not get my head around that this thing was that rich. And for some reason, I'm just thinking it's because it's not pulling in as much air. which is not true. It's the opposite of that. All the forums that I'm reading that are saying, you know, as long as you don't change the diameter of the intake, like the part that actually the MAF measures the air, then it shouldn't change at all if you have a less restrictive intake, because if it's allowing more air in, then it's also going to add the equal amount of fuel, ideally. But I have a feeling that because this thing is a straight shot through, like past the mass airflow, it's either adding more air than the mass airflow can accommodate at its current calibration, or it's adding the long-term fuel trims, because I didn't pull the battery when I did that. So it's used to the restrictive air box, and then it sees the non-restrictive cold air intake pulling in way more air, and it adds the fuel trims that were for the original air box. So I'm hoping that's what it is. We're gonna find out real soon. Just get this thing up to temp first. Feels fine, feels strong. And the other thing is, it didn't pull any timing. So I'm wondering if I have reduced the under the hood temperature. Because that definitely adds to the resistance. We know that it has enough ground, even in its current state with the adapters, we know that it has enough ground to run at full power when it's cold. It's only when it adds the heat and the resistance from it that it starts to have issues. So if we can reduce engine bay heat, it should work. It's not that I'm going to keep them or anything, but it would be nice to not have to be having this, like, you know, pressure in the wire, you know, the couple days that it's going to be in there. I'm making the pigtails today, but I'm not rewiring it today. I might, I don't know. Car feels strong. It's got like little a little bit more of a burble to it afterwards, because I think that the turbulence from the air is tricking that it's still pulling air. Because on diesel it's like 13 to 1, 13.5 to 1, a couple points. I can really hear it now. Now that I'm not like focused on the fueling, it's got a nice little howl to it. I like it. I don't know how well that's picking up on camera, but we got a Honda Civic on our hands. Honda Civic trying to pass.
Course laid in.
Maximum more. Punch it.
Okay, maybe it was fuel trims related. I don't usually rip it like that down main, but the Honda Civic had to let him. Here he comes again. Had to fight him off. I don't know if they're mad or if they're cool. No, nothing. Oh, the air fuel seemed fine. 11.3. That might be actually where we are stock, because we have no ethanol. Wow, this guy's, whoa, he ran the red. Whoa, what the hell? What was that? Oh, he got embarrassed that he got gapped by the Q. Whoopsies. He came around me hot. I hate when guys do that, man. I don't mind doing a little 1, 2, 3 action on the highway or something, but like, I don't usually just race around cars. It's unsafe. You're gonna spend all this money fixing up your car and then you're gonna drive like an asshole. It just doesn't make sense. Just let people in. Don't try and cut people off. It's so dangerous, man. You're gonna get into a collision.
What happened, Daddy?
Traffic collision. Hey, why can't we say accident again? Because accident implies there's nobody to blame.
And it's all your fault. And then what? You're gonna fix it yourself? You're gonna... No. Insurance is for accidents, not for you driving like a retard. That was so fun. Honda Civic. Even the turbos, come on, give me a break, man. You're not getting past me. I got instant torque. Gears felt great, man. This thing doesn't do the double downshift like it used to. I think it's gonna be even better with the 3.7. Just stay right in the power band. I had to give that little Civic the gaparoo. The old gaparoo. That was fun. I guess I am recording this entire thing. All right. We got our guinea pig food and some bones for Pluto. So now I'm gonna go off the number 11.3 and we're gonna add some ethanol to this thing. All right, so I got, what's in this? Maybe a little bit shy, 20 liters, 16, 17 liters. Oh, never mind, it's 20 liter max, so that's probably like 15, 12. Anyways, we're gonna put the whole dang thing in there. Okay, got our guinea pig food. I just put about, what do you think that was? Probably 14 liters ethanol, E85, and this is a Northside E85. I stopped going to the co-op station. My friend was telling me that it's about 60% ethanol and that they mix it with regular gas, so it's kind of a wash for me. So anyways, we are on, I don't know what that is, 15% ethanol. So hopefully we lean it up a bit. If it's too lean, we'll go put more gas in it. But anyways, we got our dog treats and whatnot. So now I'm gonna go hit up a electronics store that I really like, Lee's Electronics for you locals. But yeah, they're really fair, and the people that work there are really smart. They're all kind of like tinkerer, nerd types, which I like. $11.9. Okay, all right. 11.9, I'll probably just leave it there. But if it's running really rich and we're getting more air in, that means I can go farther with the ethanol. It's got way more burbles. I am really excited to try all this stuff out at the track next. So we got some serious changes. No front sway bar, shorter gear ratio. Wow, yeah, it fucking rips. From like mid throttle to full throttle, it definitely pulls harder. Low throttle might be losing some horsepowers, some horsepower. Okay, I like Lee's. Got some really nice hookup wire, and I got about 10 feet of some really expensive silicone based wire. I'll probably use that for the grounds themselves. But yeah, I just want to do a little outro here, probably do a little pull as well. Okay. That's why we don't do that very often. People like to pull out and go really slow. But anyways, yeah, I saw about 11.8 as it got past about 4,800 RPM. Feels super strong. But yeah, I also like that the packaging is a lot tighter. Like, I'm not gonna have to take out the intake every time that I want to, mess with the cam sensor or, get at the catch can. I can get at that easily now, so I do like that for spacing. Also, it seems to be a lot cooler in the engine bay, so I'll take that as well. Because the coil pack issue hasn't come back since I did the intake, and it was pretty repeatable. So I think when I do the when I actually install the harness, the new pigtails, I'm going to, here we go. .7 at the lowest. Dipped down to 11.5 for a split second, but yeah, 11.7 to 12.2. It definitely adds feel in the higher RPM range. Yeah, it felt super strong. It's got the typical ethanol feel because it's not tuned for it, which basically means that anything in closed loop is gonna be down on power. So like all your cruising, you have to give it a little bit more pedal to get that power out of it, but the actual wide open throttle part is stronger. So you sacrifice a little just cruising power for a lot more wide open throttle power. partial throttle shifts feel a lot smoother too. But anyways, I think that's gonna have to call it for this one, boys. I think next up will be, well, obviously the coil pack hardwire, but after that I want to do the diff, and then I'm gonna try and get out to the racetrack at some point and get some more numbers, because got a bunch of stuff that hasn't been tested yet. The sway bar delete, I'm curious to see how it hooks with that. Lots of stuff to test, but for now I'm gonna leave this intake in there, and I think the next sunny day we're gonna hardwire this thing for the R8 coil packs, and we'll have a video on that coming up. But for now, that's gonna have to do it. So I appreciate you guys watching, and as always, drive safe, and I will see you guys in the next one. Peace.